G'day gamers, Aussie Wargamer here in Moree, Australia. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to another episode of the Monthly Chin Wag. All right, sit down for an hour or so, do some hobby and have a chat. So tonight I want to very briefly touch on the two new battle tomes that we've had, Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven. I haven't really spoken about them yet on the channel, so don't have a whole lot to say, but I'll cover those. I'm going to talk a little bit of 40k, talk Shadow Spear. That's the big thing that's been going on. Then I want to have a chat about concept armies. So I talked about proxies a little bit last Chin Wag. I want to talk a bit about concept armies. It's been going around a little bit, whether, what we think of them, whether we play them, that kind of stuff. And then I want to talk about finding a narrative hook for your army. So I guess a way into perhaps a concept army that might not be so egregious to tournament players or whatever. Finding that narrative hook, and then I'm going to break down the list that I've been working on for my mixed destruction, which I'm about to get stuck in. In fact, I've already got stuck into it. So welcome to those who are watching and in the chat. G'day Dave, g'day Kazaki. Let's get to it, eh? So bit of hobby progress. What have I been working on? I finished off a commission for a mate, a Vamp Lord on Zombie Dragon. I don't normally like to do commissions, but did this one for my mate, and that's done, which I'm stoked on because now I can get stuck into my own stuff. I've been painting a little bit of Lord of the Rings. Tonight I've got some orcs going on, some Moranon orcs from the Pelennor Fields box. So all the base coats are down. I just need to highlight these suckers up. So I'm working on those. Working on 4 of the named Ringwraiths, mounted and unmounted versions. Working on the Tainted at the moment. Beautiful metal models. The amount that I paid for them, they should be. But no, they're fantastic. Really enjoying that. And I started work on building, building my Ale Guzzler Gargant. So I'm just working out how I want to pose him. Pretty sure I'm going to have him so he's actually lifting up a big keg of ale or whatever, and like the ale is pouring down into his mouth. I reckon that'd be sick. I'll just pick that up. So yeah, I got his body done and marked out on his shoulder where I need to cut it to reposition it, lift it up. Already cut his head, or his neck, so that his head can go up. G'day Ranger, and yeah, so that'll be great. So that's the first model I'm working on for my destruction army, which I'll talk about more detail later on. But I'm trying something. Well, I'm trying a couple of things new, I guess, with this army. First, I'm only going to buy a new unit for the army once the previous unit is converted and painted. So I'll do one unit, buy another one, do it to completion, buy another one, and so on. What I really want to work on in this army is my sculpting skills. So I can use green stuff. I can use it to fill gaps and make, do reposes and that kind of stuff. But I've not done a huge amount of sculpting, and I really want to get stuck into that. But more on that later. So that's really what I've been working on, what's been going on in the hobby desk. So just want to chat Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven a little bit. If you have any questions for me at any point during the video, just throw it up in the chat and I'll do my best to answer. Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven. Let's start with Flesh Eater Courts. As I said, I don't have a huge amount to say about these battle tomes. I thought about starting a Flesh Eater Court army. I built a model, like I built a Ghoul King. And the concept that I had in mind is just, I don't know if it's going to be viable over a whole army. Having said that, doing a 6 model Grizzlegore army would make that concept much easier. So the idea that I had It's probably not a new idea, but was to have half the model the reality and half the model the delusion. So there's like a transition from, noble Bretonian into ghastly ghoul or terrorghast or whatever it is. But I played around with the idea of doing FEC, but then, ultimately I don't think it's going to happen. But maybe for Warcry, put together a little warband for Warcry would be cool. The book itself, I haven't spent a whole lot of time on. I've had a flick through it. It's a good book, and obviously, people are saying Flesh Eater Courts are going to be very competitive. Everyone's talking about Gristle Gore, as they should, because it's a brand new concept for Age of Sigmar, being able to field an army in match play entirely of monsters. I got to say, I love it. I love the idea. People will figure it out. People will figure out how to beat it. Points will be adjusted in General's Handbook, probably. Maybe the battalion itself will go up. Oh, not the battalion, sorry. The Royal Terrorghast or whatever. Maybe they might say you can only take 2 of them, or that they are also behemoths and battle line at the same time. I don't know. I don't know that it needs fixing though. Like, I love the idea of an all monster army, and as I said, it is something brand new to Age of Sigmar, and that should be celebrated. We should be like, yes, this is cool, this is new, this is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to playing it. I totally would get into it. I've got some ideas running around, but yeah. So I think Flesh Eater Courts, great book. And love that new concept of all monster armies. I think that will be rad on the table. In terms of Skaven, firstly, I just want to say it's about time. I think the Skaven have been suffering from a lack of continuity for since the start of Age of Sigmar, and so it's cool that it's happening for them. They're getting their book. You can make your lists how you want them, and they reward you for taking clans, but the book still allows for sort of mixing and matching, which is great. So yeah, I'm all for it. I think it's a great book. Skaven have never really interested me. I've played them in Mordheim and had a lot of fun with them, but just as an army, I'm not really that keen on them. I did get absolutely demolished by a clan scryer list at CanCon, tabled in turn 3. Just got mortal wounded off the table. But in general, Skaven don't really do it for me. But glad the book exists. Glad that all the Skaven players who have been busting for this for 4 years finally have it, and it's great. And yeah, I couldn't be happier. Having Khorne as the next battle tome, I'm not sure about, but we'll see what happens. I won't buy that battle tome, so I won't be able to tell you if it's good or not, because Khorne have never had any interest for me whatsoever. But yeah, that's that. So glad both battle tomes, cool new stuff for the hobby. And look, I've got to say, I love the idea that Games Workshop are heading toward a terrain piece and 3 endless spells for all their armies, or most of their armies. I think it's cool. I think it adds that extra layer to the game, gives something new to older players, like to older armies. They might come up with other other terrain pieces and endless spells for armies that already exist. In fact, obviously we know they're doing that because Khorne, Flesh Eater Courts, etc. We're getting it, which is cool. I think that's a really cool concept. And as someone who plays Legion of Nagash, the grave sites were really Wildwoods, Sylvaneth Wildwoods were the sort of the first instance of it. But graveyards, even though they're not actually a terrain piece, certainly the first instance of it in the sort of next generation of battle tomes, the armies written for AOS 2. They just make an interesting addition to the tabletop, which is cool. Yes, they do indeed need love and unification, Ben, and they have that, which is fantastic. All right, moving on, a little bit of 40k. Big news, of course, is Return of Abaddon, Vigilus Falls, and the release of the Shadow Spear box. My club has been playing 40k a lot lately. I haven't had a game of Age of Sigmar. I've had one game of Age of Sigmar since CanCon. Otherwise, it's been Kill Team and 40k, which I'm bummed about because I love my Age of Sigmar. But both those games are fun, and I enjoy playing them as well. That Shadow Spear box is nuts, absolutely nuts. I probably won't pick it up. But all new models, which is something that G-Dubs have been doing a little bit lately, and they just look insane. Those Demonkin look absolutely bonkers. The Obliterators are out of this world. That freaky spider guy, just nuts. The Scouts. They're so dynamic, those poses. Really, really nice models. The fly guys with giant guns, I'm not quite sure about, as I'm sure a lot of people are in that same boat. Just not 100% sure on those sculpts, but everything else just looks so, so good. Look, I spend most of my time in Age of Sigmar communities. I love Age of Sigmar. It's my favorite currently supported tabletop war game. But I've got to say, 40k is a lot of fun. So I've been playing Chaos Demons, specifically Tzeentch Demons in 40k, and Thousand Suns in Kill Team. Thousand Suns are absolutely broken in Kill Team. 3-up save, which is great, but 2-up save against weapons with a damage characteristic of 1. Like, they're so hard to kill. So hard to kill. I've never lost a game with them. So I moved on to Imperial Guard just because I think that, you get high damage and you get high AP. They're against AP, they've got a 5-up invul save. But other than that, they're just not fun to play with because they're a bit broken. But they look cool, and I'll put them on the table in 40k as well. Excuse me. You gonna say good night, Bubba?
Yeah, I like that.
You say hello?
Hello.
No, Bubba. So Shadow Spear is cool. I'm sure some of the boys at the club will go halvesies in it, so I'll be able to get to see the models in real life, which will be cool. I wonder if that is something that we see in a lot of games clubs. I know Age of Sigmar community is super strong, but obviously 40k outsells Age of Sigmar quite considerably. Do other people experience that 40k comes into the club and that's the focus? People are keen, dead set on it, or do we have great Age of Sigmar oriented clubs? I don't know. You tell me. Our club is very much 40K at the moment, which is okay. All right. So just want to move on move on and talk about the idea of concept army. So it's been discussed a little bit on Twitter, on YouTube. I think pro painted guy, what's his name? Matthew Lyons. Matthew Lyons has been posting pictures of his Ardeneth concept army, which are black and white or grey with like some spot colours. The idea is that they are a nighttime raiding party, and so the colour is washed out on them. As an army, I don't know that I think they look that good. Like I've seen black and white armies done really well. Ben Roth has an amazing Legions of Nagash black and white army, and it's sort of inspired by old black and white, Dracula horror films, those kind of gothic, even the Universal Monsters movies, that black and white monster mash kind of thing. And his army looks amazing. Matthew Lyons is obviously an incredible hobbyist, and winning best painted and coolest army at South Coast GT is no small feat. So he's an amazing hobbyist. I don't know how I feel about his Idneth army, but anyway, people have been talking about concept armies for a little bit. Do they have a place in competitive circles? I just want to say, I think most armies, if you think about the term, I think most armies are concept armies. Like, obviously there are people who build lists for the sole reason that it's a good list and don't think about narrative, don't think about background, don't think about why they're putting the list together, don't have any themes. Some people do that. I think it's the minority, to be honest. I could be wrong, and we're a small little community here in Moree. We've only been to a few tournaments, but I reckon most people have some kind of concept behind their army. They think, oh, wouldn't it be a cool idea if these beasts of chaos were together because of this reason? Or wouldn't it be a cool idea if the Nagash is leading his 30 Grimghast Reapers because because of the Necroquake and they're out to see just how powerful the big man is. I think most people have some kind of concept in mind when they put together the army. And I know that's not what people are talking, what the argument is about. It's not really an argument, but what the discussion is about. But I think I feel like most people have some kind of concept when they build an army. Now, having said that, what we're actually talking about are armies that are, or army lists that are put together for entirely narrative reasons. And the big issue is, of course, using proxy models, which I talked about last week, using heavily converted models and that kind of stuff. So I don't think anyone will be surprised to hear where I come from, where I sit in this discussion. I aim to build my armies to be fully converted concept armies every single time because I think it's fun. I love it. Converting minis, my favorite thing. I love just sitting, building, cutting things up, gluing, gap filling. I love it. And I love coming up with the ideas and then being able to physically manifest them. I love scrounging through my bits box. I love, jumping online, going on Pinterest and seeing what other people are doing. I love converting models and converting them for a reason. Having some kind of story. I mean, that's what Age of Sigmar is about, right? It's about a narrative on the tabletop, and listening to all the new episodes of Stormcast, there's very much a theme that Age of Sigmar is designed to be an aesthetic game. It's designed to look good. Okay, so all the models are designed to, even at low skill level, to look good on the table. It's designed to tell stories. We've seen in Age of Sigmar just this progression of stories since it was released in 2015, like the Realmgate Wars through to Malign Portents and the Soul Wars. That story is progressing. The narrative is progressing, and we had that in Warhammer Fantasy Battles as well. But Age of Sigmar is a game that is designed to tell stories and to look good. And so putting together a concept army, putting together a narrative army, it just makes sense. Having some reason why all these units are together. And I love Sam Morgan's Araby army, because it is competitive filth. Like, there's no way about it. He has chosen units that are, in his own words, undercosted, they're competitive, they're absolute filth. But he has a story that brings everything together. His Knight Incantor or whatever it is, it rides a flying carpet. Like, that's awesome. So he's got, an army that's built to be competitive, but, there's a reason why it's been put together. I think that's fantastic. My Legions of Nagash army, well, I mean, it's a remnant from Warhammer Fantasy Battles. So in Warhammer Fantasy Battles, it was a Lamian Vampire, a Lamian Vampire and her Necromancer sister were Bretonnian damsels. She was sired by Neferata. The vampire was sired by Neferata, and corrupted her sister into necromancy, and they raised an army of undead Bretonnians. And then in Age of Sigmar, similar story, sired by Neferata. They're not Bretonnians. They look like Bretonnians, but they're not Bretonnians. They might be from New Lamia or something like that. But that was the concept behind it, and it goes through my choices of models for conversions. My Blood Knights are all Bretonnian Knights. My Black Knights have Bretonnian Knight bits on them. It goes through my basing, so there's lots of fleur-de-lis and lots of stained glass and that kind of stuff on my bases, and so that the concept runs all the way through. My Tzeentch army, excuse me, is kind of based on an ancient Egyptian theme. It's based around the four heroes being the Egyptian gods. So my Gaunt Summoner is Isis. My Lord of Change is Horus. My Changeling is Thoth, and my Curseling is Anubis. And so it's themed very much like that. I've only got one unit plus one model painted. It's been nearly a year since I started that army, and I need to get back into it. But just so many new other ideas floating around in my head. And of course, my Bretonvaneth army is, the concept that Alariel's transformed these three guild, as she's reminiscing about Bretonnia and the old world. And so there's stories there, there's concepts, And I think, I mean, to me, it's really, really important to have that. I would not have an army. I wouldn't put an army together that didn't have those concepts. Basically, what I'm saying is that all my armies are concept armies, and all my armies will be concept armies. Competitively, though, I think the number one thing, in fact, really the only thing, is if your opponent understands, if your opponent can see what the models represent fairly easily, if you don't need to go through and say, oh, this thing is a whatever, because it looks nothing like a whatever, I think you're golden. If your opponent knows what you're playing, all good. Be as conceptual as you like, and do it. Be as conceptual as you like. That any hardcore gamers who are watching this, and I don't know that my audience has very many of them because I don't talk about competitive gaming very much at all. But any hardcore gamer that is listening to this, try it. Put a story together. Think of an idea. Think of a different concept that you could go with. How, what ties the units in your army together? Because I love it. I think it's really, really fun, and you can have a lot of fun on the tabletop, telling these stories and unfolding them. As games happen, your army can change. Like the concept can change, your characters can change. You can swap out artifacts as they're changing, and that kind of stuff as well. I think it's fantastic. But enough of that, and I want to talk a little bit about tying into that. I want to talk a bit about finding a narrative hook to your army. So you've decided, all right, I'm going to go narrative. I'm going to I'm going to try out this conceptual stuff. How do I do it? How do I find a hook and get into a concept? And there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. I did make a video on it a little while ago, but I think it's a topic that deserves repeating. So the first thing that I would suggest is to have a look where you would normally look for army inspiration. So for me, it's Pinterest. I love jumping on Pinterest and finding a bunch of stuff for army inspiration. Just type in the name of your army, and so much cool stuff comes up. And if there's something that jumps out at you, if there's something that you think, oh my goodness, that would be a really rad idea, I think I can do that. Fantastic. That's your hook right there. You can build on that. Sometimes, though, you're not struck by inspiration straight away, and you need to dig a little bit more deeply. So what I would suggest, there are two ways to go about it. You can either have a concept first and then think of an army that will fit that concept, or have an army first and think of a concept that will fit that army. So concept first really requires inspiration. It requires an idea, okay? So my Bretovaneth is a concept first army. It's what if, Alariel, daughter of Lilith, daughter of the Lady of the Lake, she has to think about that. That's the concept. That's the hook. How can I then build my army from that concept, okay? And my destruction army, which I'll talk about in a little bit, my destruction army is a concept first army as well. But then you've got the army first armies. So my Tzeentch was that, absolutely that. So I've been wanting to do a Tzeentch army since probably 7th edition Fantasy Battles. So I had my vampire accounts, they were back then, and I was looking to get into Tzeentch because I wanted to do an army that I could do for both Age of Sigmar and 40k. But then I stopped the hobby, and I was out of the hobby for about 10 years. And yeah, so I came back to this concept. Let's do a Tzeentch army. Still haven't done the Tzeentch army. I've got a lot of stuff I've built and a unit painted, but let's do a Tzeentch army. So how can I do that Tzeentch army? How can I make that Tzeentch army unique? How can I make it mine? How can I make it my own? And so I took something that was already there. So both Tzeentch in Age of Sigmar and in 40k have a very Egyptian feel, very Egyptology with the all is dust, and with in 40k the rubric marines look very sarcophagi-ish, I guess. And there's the color palette, the blues and the the blues and the yellows. It's all there. And then the Tzeentch stuff in Age of Sigmar, the Kyric acolytes, very very Egyptian looking, and even the Zangor, their shields and that kind of stuff, very very sort of Egyptian look. So I took that part of the army and really ran with it. There are photos floating around on my Twitter of some of the models that I've built. My Lord of Change, is converted from a demon prince, and I've bulked him out, and his wings are made partly of a Necro Sphinx's wings, but they're like 3 times as big, and he's got Tomb King stuff all over him, and a hawk head because he's Horus. So that's where I want to do this army. What concept can I come up with? Legions of Nagash or Vampire Counts was the same. I want to do this army. What concept can I come up with? So you start with the army first, and then build the concept out of that. The other way, as I was saying, concept first. How do you get the ideas? I don't know that I can answer that. I think, look for inspiration, look for ideas, look for models, look through your bits box. I often find that when I'm stuck for ideas, I'll just go through, and I've got a fairly organized bits box because I convert things all the time. I need to know where bits are, and I need to keep them organized. Just looking through your bits box and think, what would happen if I mix this bit here with that bit there, and you can build a concept out of that. Another place to go, of course, is the already established lore. Something from the novel, something from a battle tome or the rule book. There's an awesome thing in Legions of Nagash, which I would love to do something with, but I haven't quite figured out the logistics yet, called Latchkey Island. And it's the idea that it's like this old school, I guess, Dungeons and Dragons labyrinth with locked doors and treasure and fully like traps and puzzles that people have to solve. And thieves come. This is like the thief afterlife, right? They come to Latchkey Island and spend their lives. And loving spending their lives going through, this labyrinth of mazes and traps and puzzles and that kind of stuff. It's like playing a game of Neverwinter Nights, like in real life forever. I love that concept. I love that idea. And it's like 2 sentences in the Legions of Nagash battle tome, maybe not even that. But it's an idea that really could be explored so much. Be a great sort of RPG or something like that. So you can draw inspiration from that. If there's something in the fiction or in White Dwarf who are doing a really great job at that kind of inspirational stuff with their realm articles that they've been doing and the fiction that they've been printing in the magazine. Just been doing a really good job at that. So you can find a little tidbit there and run with it. Listening to Blake Kerwick on Heralds of War, that was what it was for him, was the conversion, making these big feral dinosaurs. And once he'd made them, he sat down and thought, what can I run them as? Excuse me, with friends and stuff. So that's another way, I guess, is you start with the idea of the conversion. I want to make this model. How can I build an army out of it? How can what can I run it as? That kind of stuff. So I think that's the bottom line. So you can build an army out of a concept, or a concept out of an army. Either way works. You just need to find the inspiration. Obviously, some people are better at coming up with the ideas than others, but the inspiration is definitely out there. If you don't use Pinterest, I recommend it. I love it. Every time I have an idea for a new army, I'll jump on Pinterest, search the concept. So, I've got images in my Zinch one. I've got images of Egyptian gods. I've got images of pottery. I've got images of sarcophagi. I've got images of miniatures that other people have, excuse me, other people have put together. And, you can organize it really, really well. So that's great fun. So, I encourage you. Excuse me, should have brought a drink down. I encourage you to really get into the narrative. All right. List time. Before we do that, I might just take a quick break and go grab a drink. I'll leave the stream running. Imagine that there's like music playing in the background, maybe King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard or something like that, some epic power rock or something. I'll be 30 seconds. Apologies. I wonder if there's like a on hold function in Google Hangouts. If you know, let me know. All right. So my Age of Sigma army. I'll probably do this one over the next 2 years. Because as I said, I really want to work on sculpting and getting better at that. I want to put something on my model, on every model in the army that I have sculpted myself, whether it's a hat or, a scroll or whatever it is. Just something on every model in my army that I have sculpted myself. And that's my challenge. And it'll probably take a couple of years to do. I was thinking about maybe try to get it done for CanCon next year, since Blake is apparently not putting something in. But I really want to work hard on it. And if I can get it up to scratch, competing against Blake is going to be far more rewarding. So look for it, CanCon 2021. So the idea of the army is going to mixed destruction army, and I'm hoping that we get a greenskins book or like an orc book that does, bone splitters and greenskins. I think Ironjaws probably need their own book. We talked about this a little bit last episode, but I'm hoping that some kind of destruction-y book comes out that I can run them as. At the moment, it's mixed destruction, and boy, is it mixed. So the concept is, I always have been fascinated with pirates. I did a lot of research on Golden Age piracy at university in history class. Spent a lot of time reading books. Went to the Caribbean for a while and did a lot of piratey related stuff, and just really got into the whole idea. So I've got a pirate warband in Mordheim, and I love them, love using them. But I wanted to do a pirate army in Age of Sigmar, full pirates. I don't have a destruction army. I've got lots of death. Maybe 7,000 points worth of death by now, maybe 6,000. I've got my order army in my Bretoneth, which I can expand with more Bretonians and more Sylvaneth. And I've got my unpainted Tzeentch army as well for chaos, but I didn't have anything destruction. So I wanted to do a destruction pirate army. And the leader is an orc or an Auric warboss on Waven. And because I wanted to have a orc riding a dragon, like why not? And if Danny can sail the ocean with 3 dragons, these guys can sail the seas of the mortal realms with a dragon as well. That was a Game of Thrones reference if you didn't pick it up. So yeah, General Auric Warboss on Waven. Don't have a name for him yet, but this guy lived in a sort of coastal area in Gur, and saw a bit of trade with some of the human colonies there. I assume there's human colonies in Gur, right? There's got to be. There's human colonies in all the mortal realms, I reckon. Saw this ship and decided, ho ho ho, pirates like yo-yo. Pirate's life for me is where I'm going with that. We're not Santa Claus. Yo ho ho is what I was going for. Yo ho ho, pirate's life for me, and with a bunch of his Auric boys, bullied them into building a ship. And so my display board, when I eventually get it done, I am going to build a pirate ship, probably about a meter or so long, to be able to fit everything on it. And it'll be an orc pirate ship, so it'll have all sorts of bits and pieces off it, and be patched everywhere and that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking of getting like a fish tank and putting a glass lid, like having a glass lid on it, and so it'll sit on that with lots of resin and water texture and stuff for the waves, and then and so you can see under the water of the ship as well for the display board, which I mean it's going to be big, like really big, but it should be cool. So I've been looking into shipbuilding, which has been lots of fun. But yeah, so my general is an Auric Warboss on Waven. That's, as I said, mainly rule of cool, mainly that cool factor. But he's not a slouch. 11 wounds. His chopper, 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, 1 damage, which is great. The Waven at full health is 5 attacks at 4s and 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage, and then 2 attacks at 4s and 2s at full health, 1 rend, 3 damage. So he can do a bit of damage. He gets mortal wounds. He does, he does conditional mortal wounds. Reroll saves if he's got a shield. 8 attacks if he doesn't. And his command ability, everything, any auric unit, within 12 inches make 1 extra attack with all of their melee weapons, which is huge. 12 inches is a decent sized bubble. You can get a bunch of stuff within 12 inches, and 30 aurics with an extra attack is no joke. So that's a really cool command ability. So yeah, even though he's in there, because I want a pirate on a dragon, an orc pirate on a dragon, he's no slouch either. Then I've put another couple of bosses in there, the Auric Mega Boss and the Savage Big Boss. As I said, this could all change if we get a Greenskins book. But both the Mega Boss and the Big Boss have decent command abilities. I'm thinking the Mega Boss will be the ship's mate. So I'll probably give him like a peg leg, and like a big old orky spyglass, which would be cool. And then the Savage Big Boss can be the bosun, so he'll have ropes and hooks and all that kind of cool stuff. And then because magic just seems really important in Age of Sigmar, can't leave home without some dispelling. I've put a Weird Knob Shaman and a Madcap Shaman in there as well, partly for modeling potential. Like I can imagine, sort of Pirates of the Caribbean style, witchy kind of shamanesque stuff. But partly because, as I said, so it's a gamey thing. I need a bit of magic. Also, the Weird Knob Shaman has Foot of Gork, which when it goes off well, it can be absolutely devastating. And I don't know why you would ever cast Green Puke over Foot of Gork, but it is Green Puke, which is also kind of piratical. And the Madcap Shaman has Night Shroud, which means that he can protect a unit from the shooting phase, the -1 to hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons. So that could come in handy as well, particularly since we're seeing shooting come back a little bit. Battleline, I really, really struggled. After playing Horde Legions of Nagash for a while, I don't enjoy pushing around lots and lots of models. Even 30 Dryads can be painful from time to time. But I didn't want to go Ogres for Battleline. I think Ogres work well in bigger units anyway, and I didn't want to have a bunch of big units of Ogres. I could have gone with a bunch of small units for Ogres, 3 units of 3 Ogres. I just didn't want to go down that route. So I'm hoping, again, if we get a Destruction book, that there'll be a few more options for Battleline. At the moment, I've got a unit of 30 Savage Oryx, 10 Savage Oryx, and 10 Savage Oryx. So 50 orcs in the crew, which is okay. I'm good with that. I don't know that I necessarily want to build, convert, and paint 50 Oryx. I think I'm going to run out of ideas after about 30, but that's okay. Again, we'll see what happens. I'll paint I'll do a couple of lots of 10. Probably I'll get a couple of lots of 10 in this year, and we'll see what happens. Having a big unit though can be really, really useful in Age of Sigmar. Obviously, it's a game of objectives, and being able to move 30 Oryx, that's 60 wounds. Now they only have a 6-up save, but if the unit has 20 models, you can reroll ones, and if it's got 30 models, you can reroll all failed save rolls. So while they're a full unit, they can reroll all their saves. 6-up save though, they're going to fail a bunch of them, and I'm going to lose models. But as I said, 60 wounds is still a lot to get through. So they will come in handy. So that's my battle line, the Savage Oryx. And then in all honesty, I'm going to have a lot of fun with like the first 20, and then I'm going to be like, what other ideas do I have? There's only so many things you can do. After the 15th, tricorn or eye patch or peg leg or hook hand or giant massive scimitar or whatever it is. Excuse me. I think that'll be tricky to be able to have that many original ideas. But I'm up for the challenge. I'm good to go. Artillery. Want to throw an Iron Blaster in there because it's a pirate army, and so why wouldn't I put a giant cannon, like a giant cannon, in my army? It's one of those things that is going to be a very much hit or miss, quite literally. So the Cannon of the Sky, like the thing itself, the cannon itself, will only has one attack, 4s to hit, 2s to wound, neg rend, d6 damage. So it's not great. One attack at 4s to hit, 50% of the time you're missing. And then you've got to roll your 2-up. Then, -2 rend. So, your opponent's got a 6-up most of the time. And then d6 damage. So it goes through, you roll a 1, it's fairly inconsistent. The other stuff can hit you. The Rhinox can hit you a little bit. But it's not in there for competitive reasons. It's in there because it's the pirate army and I want a giant cannon. I've already got ideas on what I'm going to do with it. A massive giant cannon. So that'll be cool. So Iron Blaster's in there. Ale Guzzler Gargant. I've always wanted to do a Gargant. I love that kit. There is just so much cool stuff in that kit. So my Gargant, I'm going to, where did I put his body? I'm going to have him swilling a big barrel of ale, and I'm going to put, I'm going to put a pirate vest and a bandana on him. He's going to, I'm going to make a patch of his vest. He's going to be like a grot head that's been cut off and used to patch up his jacket, his vest, which would be cool. And lots of belts and maybe some giant pistols and stuff on there as well. I'm going to have a lot of fun with him. On his base, I think I'm going to have a grot pulling along a big crate, really struggling to pull along a big crate. And his weapon is going to be a mast with a crow's nest. And I'm even thinking about having a grot hanging on to the edge of the crow's nest for dear life. as he's about to swing it at some bad guy. He's having a drink first, but he's gonna swing it at some guy. And again, Gargant's inconsistent, but they look like they'll be a lot of fun. So I'm keen for that. I'm going to stick in a merworm as another sort of monster. And that'll give me sort of 3 bigger things to play with on the table. It's not amazing. It's okay. 12 wounds, 6 attacks, 4s and 3s, 1 rend, 1 damage. 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -3 rend, D3 damage, and 1 attack, 4s and 3s, -1 rend, 6 damage at full health. So it can do a little bit of damage. You're -1 to hit against it, which is nice. And hits, if the tail hits on a 6, then it does D6 damage instead. If the jaws hit on a 6, D6 damage instead of D3, which is cool. And he's got healing as well. But I thought it'd be cool if the army had like a pet, this pet mealworm, and they keep it chained to the ship, and it swims alongside the ship. I think that's a cool idea. So I threw a merworm in. I don't think I really like the model, but I'm thinking I'm going to build one myself out of like troglodon bits and maybe some other bits and pieces of stuff. Sort of build my own, maybe the tail from the Arkelian King if I can get one, and that kind of thing. Build my own because it's fun and I like it. And then finally, I've got a unit of Rock Gut Troggoths because I reckon, look, again, I love the models and I really want to sink my teeth into them. They've got that sort of swampy vibe a little bit, so they're already a little bit watery, a little bit piratey, but pirating these guys up, I think, is going to be lots and lots of fun, making them go full Jack Sparrow. I might even give one of them like a little beard. I think that'll be cool. And those Troggoths are pretty awesome. 2 attacks each at 3s and 3s, -2 rend, 3 damage. That's decent. And they've got healing and a 5-up after save, which is amazing. So yeah, Rock Gut Troggoths, they're going in as well. So that's my list. Warboss on Wyvern, Auric Megaboss, Savage Big Boss, Weird Dog Shaman, Madcap Shaman, 10 Savage Oryx, 10 Savage Oryx, 30 Savage Oryx, an Iron Blaster, Ale Guzzler Gargant, a Merworm, and Rock Gut Troggoths, all as pirates. It's going to be so much fun to put together. I'm really, really excited, really looking forward to it. I've been trying to push myself to get the Tzeentch done, but at the moment, these guys are all I can think about. So that's what's happening, which is cool. Getting some Lord of the Rings stuff done, which is good. And I will get the Tzeentch done. But at the moment, it's all about the destruction. Well, that's all I want to have a chat about tonight. For those of you who have stuck with me from the start, we're about to hit the hour mark. Well done for sitting here listening to me ramble for an entire hour. It's been good fun, or most of an hour, except for that minute where I had to go get a drink. Thanks for watching. As always, subscribe if you want to hear more of my voice. Catch us later.